Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the Connecticut Department of Transportation virtual public hearing for the proposed rail fare changes in 2025 and 2026. My name is Dan Baker. I'm a supervising planner with the Connecticut DOT, Bureau of Public Transportation. I will be moderating tonight's virtual public hearing. Tonight's hearing will include a 15-minute presentation on the proposed rail fare changes, as well as the department's fare equity analysis of the proposed changes. Following the presentation, we will open up the hearing to comments from members of the public. We currently have 22 individuals registered to attend tonight's hearing. One important housekeeping note: if you are present and would like to speak during the public comment portion of tonight's hearing, please write your first and last name in the Q&A tab on Zoom. You will be called by name once the public comment portion begins following the presentation. You will then have 3 minutes to share your comments with the panelists. Panelists joining us this evening from the Connecticut Department of Transportation include Rail Administrator Rich Jankovich and Transportation Planner Sam Savadu. At this time, I'll turn it over to Rail Administrator Rich Jankovich for opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's public hearing on the proposed fare changes for rail services in Connecticut in September 2025, September 2025, and July of 2026. Your attendance and input in tonight's hearing are valued and critically important to ensure we deliver a safe, accessible, and equitable public transportation system in Connecticut. All comments received during tonight's hearing and throughout the entire public comment period will be recorded and carefully reviewed as we finalize the proposed fare changes. Earlier this month, the Connecticut State Legislature adopted a biannual budget that was signed by the governor. The bipartisan budget included funding levels for rail services, including accounting for a 5% increase to fares on all rail lines in the state in both fiscal years 26 and 27. Fares are a critical source of revenue to the state's extensive public transportation system, supporting a safe and reliable system while helping maintain existing service levels. Thank you and again for attending tonight's hearing and providing your feedback to the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. And just a reminder for those attendees who recently joined, if you would like to speak during the public comment portion of tonight's hearing after the presentation, please type your first and last name in the Q&A tab on Zoom. At this point, I will pass it over to Transportation Planner Sam Savadu from the Connecticut Department of Transportation to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Dan. Just wanted to make sure that the presentation is being shared.
Yep, it looks good.
Sorry, one moment. I'm just trying to pull up the correct screen. For some reason, I'm not seeing the presentation.
We're on the presentation agenda slide.
Okay, I think I figured it out. I think I was just on the wrong tab, so sorry for the temporary technical difficulty. Thank you again, and welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation Rail Fare hearing. We will cover the following items. We'll start off with how to use Zoom, then go into Title VI information, then additional presentation information, followed by an overview of the service and fare equity analysis process. We'll review proposed rail fare changes, as well as the fare equity analysis, then the public comment period, and lastly, we'll provide members of the public to provide a formal public comment. View captions and subtitles in Zoom, click Show Captions. then click the speaking language and select the language you would like from the list shown. Closed captioning, including non-English translation options, are available on YouTube after the event. Use the Q&A function on Zoom. Select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom webinar window, and a Q&A window will open as seen on the right. Please type the question in the text box and click enter. If you are an audio-only participant, dial *9 to raise and lower your hand. During today's hearing, all participants will be muted until called upon to speak. Closed captioning is provided in real time on Zoom. Please note that today's hearing is being recorded and all public comments will become part of the public record. The public comment portion of the hearing will follow this presentation. The Connecticut Department of Transportation is committed to ensuring that no person is excluded from participation, denied benefits, or otherwise subjected to discrimination under any program or activity on the basis of color, race, or national origin. Please visit the following webpage for more information on our Title VI program and your rights under Title VI. We encourage you to complete the voluntary feedback survey. Survey information helps the department conduct the most inclusive and representative outreach possible. Survey responses are anonymous and will be used to strictly achieve this goal. Esta encuesta también está disponible en español. The link to the survey can be accessed from the Zoom chat today. For more information about our Title VI program and how to file a complaint, please reference our Title VI notice on the screen. This information can also be found on our Title VI webpage. Next slide. And here's the same Title VI information in Spanish. Para más información sobre el Programa de Derechos Civiles de CTDOT y el proceso de presentar una queja, comuníquese con la coordinadora de título 6 de CTDOT al siguiente número de teléfono o en la página web. Presentation slides are currently available on the state webpage. After the public hearings, the hearing recordings will be available on the webpage. Please visit ct.gov/dot/proposed transit changes for additional information. In accordance with the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Federal Transit Administration Circular 4702.1b, CTDOT conducts an equity analysis of proposed fare changes or major service changes to determine if the changes will have a disparate impact on minority customers or disproportionate burden on low-income customers. CTDOT is required to analyze major service changes that are expected to continue beyond 12 months and any fare changes beyond 6 months. According to the CTDOT Title VI program, a fare equity analysis will be conducted whenever CTDOT proposes a fare change, regardless of the amount of increase or decrease. A fare change is defined as an increase or decrease in fares on the entire system, on certain transit modes, or by fare payment type or fare media. This is an overview of the process we follow for the fare equity analysis. We are currently in the public hearing stage. The public comment period began on June 6, 2025, and will run through July 6, 2025. Following the conclusion of the public comment period, all public comments will be considered by the department and the finalization of the equity analysis. All fare changes are analyzed to determine whether the proposed changes will have a disparate impact or disproportionate burden. Disparate impact means a policy or practice that disproportionately affects members of a group identified by race, color, or national origin. Disproportionate burden means a policy or practice that disproportionately affects low-income populations. I will now pass it on to Jen Baker to provide an overview of the proposed rail fare changes.
Thank you, Sam. Connecticut DOT proposes increasing fares for Shoreline East, Hartford Line, and Metro North New Haven Line services in Connecticut, including the New Canaan, Danbury, and Waterbury branch lines. Fares are a critical source of revenue to Connecticut DOT and their service providers' ability to operate a safe and reliable transportation system while maintaining current service levels and supporting rising costs. The targeted increases for all rail lines is 5% in September 2025 and an additional 5% in July 2026. As a result of rounding to the nearest 25 cents, the actual percentage increase to a specific ticket type for start and end stations may vary. The average changes in fare by line and year are shown on this slide and are all approximately 5%. Next slide. As a reminder, fares represent only a portion of the total costs needed to operate rail service throughout Connecticut. For example, for Metro North lines in 2024, fare revenue accounted for approximately 30% of the total cost to operate the service. The difference is made up with other revenue sources and subsidies. Rising costs ultimately means that revenues also need to periodically increase. Rail fares in Connecticut were last increased by approximately 4.5% in August 2023 on Hartford Line, Shoreline East, and the New Haven Line. Prior to this, rail fares had not increased since 2018. With the proposed fare increase in September 2025 and July 2026, the increase in rail fares since 2018 will be less than inflation over that same period. Inflation has driven consumer prices up by approximately 28%, while by 2026, rail fares will have increased by between 14 and 15%. So rail fares in Connecticut, as previously mentioned, last increased in 2023. And this slide demonstrates what CT Rail Hartford Line customers would expect to pay with the proposed fare increases. For example, a one-way ticket between Hartford and New Haven would be increasing from the current $8.25 to $8.75 in September 2025 and to $9.25 in July 2026. A monthly pass would increase from $173.25 today to $182 in September 2025 and $191 in July 2026. We included other station pairs such as Meriden to New Haven and Meriden to Hartford for additional examples on the screen. Next slide. Likewise, this slide demonstrates what Shoreline East customers would expect to pay with the proposed fare increases. For example, a one-way ticket between New London and New Haven is increasing from the current $10.75 to $11.25 in September 2025 and to $11.75 in July 2026. Monthly passes would increase from $225.75 today to $237 in September 2025 and to $248.75 in July 2026. Additional examples for other station pairs are also included on this slide. Next slide. And finally, this slide demonstrates what Metro North Railroad New Haven Line customers could expect to pay with the proposed increases. For example, a peak one-way ticket between Stamford and Grand Central would be increasing from the current $16 to $17 in September 2025 and to $17.75 in July 2026. A monthly pass would increase from the current $315 today to $334.75 in September 2025 and to $349.50 in July 2026. Additional station pair and origin destinations are included on this screen as well. Next slide. During the department's fare equity analysis, rail lines were analyzed individually as well as in combination. When combined, the equity analysis results showed that for minority customers, the average change in fare for all rail lines would be 5.12% in 2025 and 4.89% in 2026. For low-income customers, the average change would be 5.09% in 2025 and 5.0% in 2026. When compared to all customers, the difference for both minority customers and low-income customers are within 0.2%, which is well below the 5% disparate impact or disproportionate burden threshold policy. We found that the proposed fare increases for 2025 and 2026 for the Hartford Line, Shoreline East, and the New Haven Line do not have a disparate impact on minority customers nor a disproportionate burden on low-income customers, whether analyzed individually or in aggregate. Full details of the equity analysis can be found in the draft equity analysis report available on the state webpage online. Next slide. Comments regarding the proposed fare changes and equity analysis can be made in a variety of ways. One way is by making a public statement during tonight's virtual public hearing. If you would like to provide comment and have not registered yet to speak, please type your first and last name in the Q&A tab on Zoom. Additional methods include submitting a comment via email to dot.proposedtransitchanges@ct.gov. You can comment by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-3612. You can also comment by mail, sending your comments to the address on the screen. And comments will be accepted up until 11:59 p.m. on July 6th, 2025. Next slide. 4 public hearings were scheduled to receive public comments on the proposed rail fare changes. These included 2 in-person hearings in Stamford and New Haven and 2 virtual hearings, including this one this evening. A second virtual hearing via Zoom will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, July 1st, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. We will now be transitioning to the public comment portion of tonight's hearing. Thank you for listening to the presentation this evening. We ask that any individuals who will be speaking limit their comments to the fare equity analysis and the proposed fare changes. And we will begin calling names of individuals who have signed up shortly. In the interest of providing all speakers the opportunity to speak on the record, comments are limited to 3 minutes in time. Please note that no questions will be answered by the moderator or the panelists during the public comment portion of this hearing, and all comments made during the hearing will be recorded and transcribed for the record. All right, so we are going to check the list of individuals registered to speak this evening. The time is 7:24 p.m. We currently have 1 member of the public who has registered. Michelle Doherty. Could you raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and someone from the team will unmute you so you can provide your comment. Is
Hello,
Michelle?
Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michelle Doherty. I am a resident in Glastonbury, Connecticut, and a regular commuter from New Haven to Grand Central, commuting 4 days per week. So I am a monthly subscriber. And I don't usually participate in these things, but this proposed fare increase seemed like it was potentially impactful enough that I felt compelled to speak here. By my calculations, for a monthly pass from New Haven to Grand Central, it's actually going to increase 11.2% overall in a 10-month period. And one of my concerns is the precedent for that significant of an increase. I do realize there was a 1% increase in 2018 and a 4.5% increase in 2023, but 11.2% is definitely a significant amount of money and something that I will be feeling in my bank account every month. And I also understand that inflation is real. Inflation has caused expenses and the cost of everything to go up. My position is I could choose maybe not to buy a carton of eggs at the grocery store. I could choose maybe to forego buying tickets to a concert or planning a less extravagant vacation. However, I cannot choose to not go to work. And at this rate of fare increase, it will become an actual concern for me being able to afford my monthly train ticket. And, I have a couple other friends who are not able to be on the call tonight. They are in a similar situation. They're in Middlesex County. They are daily commuters. The reason we live here, the cost of living in New York is expensive. There's better education, better quality of life we felt in Connecticut, but our jobs are in New York and we are required to commute there regularly. And this will have a significant impact on us. And I think my other concern was just to know that, all this is a big burden on our commuters. And I'm also just wanting to confirm that DOT or Amtrak or Metro North are also going to be contributing to these increased expenses. And it's not just the commuters who are expected to take on these additional costs. That was all I really wanted to say tonight. And I want to thank you for the time and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate you attending tonight's hearing and providing your comments. The next member of the public registered to speak is Aaron Good. Aaron, could you please raise your hand using Zoom and a member of the team will unmute you? You're unmuted, Aaron.
Okay, thank you. Aaron Good. I'm a resident of New Haven, and my perspective is based on my experience as a resident of New Haven, which is an environmental justice community where many transit riders don't own cars, they don't have discretionary income, they don't have alternative commuting options, and I think this new rate structure would have a severely negative and disparate impact on these individuals and on distressed municipalities and EJ communities. More generally, given the upward cost pressures in so many other sectors right now, particularly housing, I think we really need to be looking at ways to hold the line on transit fares and find ways to enhance revenue from our rail stations that's derived from non-fare box sources, and that could be parking revenues. I think another optimal way to do it is engage much more vigorously repurposing station adjacent surface parking lots into transit oriented development, or at the very least, solar canopies, using the revenue from those development opportunities from those public private partnerships to keep fares stable, or at least keep them from rising faster than inflation. And moreover, I realize this is controversial, but I think it's warranted. In order to move forward equitably, we need to better align our fare structure with our state policy goals and with our plan of conservation and development. So residents of towns that embrace upzoning and transit-oriented development around their train stations, particularly Metro North stations, they should enjoy discounted multi-ride tickets and monthly passes, while residents from towns that refuse to upzone around their train station should have surcharges applied to their monthly passes and multi-ride tickets. And it's sad that it has come to this, but we need a tiered fare structure where if you live in a town that refuses to help the state with its economic development and housing goals, that's a poor decision by your town, and it will result in your commuters being asked to contribute more to the transit system through higher fares. I don't think it's right or sustainable that commuters from towns that are doing the right thing with respect to transportation, housing, and land use should be asked to continue subsidizing those towns and those commuters that insist on doing the wrong thing. So let's start aligning our fare structure with our state policy goals until all our towns begin to get the message about doing their fair share. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron, for attending tonight's hearing. The next individual registered to speak is Laura Kahn. Laura, could you please raise your hand on Zoom and a member of the team will unmute you? All right, Laura.
Hi, thank you very much for holding this hearing and for listening to me. I am Laura Kahn. I also live in New Haven, and I agree with a lot of what Aaron Good said. I want you to know that I do not commute to New York, but I love taking the train from New Haven to New York. I wish the trains were a bit faster, maybe fewer stops, more express trains. And I think that the rails should be subsidized by tolls on our people on the highways and private cars and trucks. I do not think that we should be discouraging people by raising fares on trains. We need to protect the environment by encouraging everyone to take the train. And you have an incredibly helpful staff on the trains. They're wonderful, and they are a great advertisement for Metro North, but we also need to be using some other funds besides fares to help with this. And I also think that people who litter on the trains should be fined because it's a crime to litter, and that money could also help. Anyway, I think that's it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura, for attending tonight's hearing. So at this time, we do not have any other members of the public who have signed up via the chat to provide their comment. Before we pause the hearing, I do want to remind all attendees, if you would like to provide comment to the panelists here from Connecticut DOT, please type your first and last name in the Q&A tab, and we will call your name. Alternatively, if someone would like to raise their hand, we can take you off mute that way. Amy Duda is the next person registered to speak. If someone can unmute Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Duda. Thanks very much for inviting the public to participate. I commute from West Haven several times a week. I'm interested to know, along with the possibility of increasing rider fares, what are the other measures that are being taken so that riders are not bearing 50% of the needed increase in revenue. Some of the other participants this evening mentioned other possibilities, and it does feel like people who are using public transportation in a responsible way are being penalized, while people who choose to drive their cars when there's ample parking and plenty of trains for them are not having to participate either by tolls, by fees, by increased fares from the towns that they live in that choose not to support public transportation.
Thank you, Amy, for your comments and attending tonight's hearing. If someone could lower Amy's hand. We're checking the Q&A to see if there are additional members looking to provide comments. There are currently no more individuals registered to speak at the moment. So we are going to pause tonight's hearing at 7:35 p.m. and we are here till 9 p.m. We will be monitoring the Q&A. So if you would like to provide comment and you have not already, again, please type your name in the chat. Alternatively, if you raise your hand, we could have you provide your comment as well. Okay, the time is now 8:59 p.m. We have restarted the recording. On behalf of the Connecticut Department of Transportation, I would like to thank the members of the public and the media who attended tonight's virtual public hearing on the proposed rail fare changes in 2025 and 2026. And thank you to the 4 individuals who spoke and provided comments during the public comment portion of tonight's hearing. As a reminder, the public comment period is open until July 6, 2025. Please visit ct.gov/DOT/proposed transit changes for all the ways to provide additional comment. As a reminder, we will be holding a second virtual public hearing tomorrow on Zoom from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. The time is now 9 p.m. We are closing tonight's public hearing. Thank you and have a good evening.